Hello and welcome back to the British and Irish Eagles podcast on this corporate Tuesday. I don't know about you guys listening in, but I've been trying to avoid as much Eagles media coverage as possible since Sunday evening. You'll be glad to know I won't be stumbling through the first few minutes alone like I was last week. I'm joined by not one, but two British and Irish Eagles co-hosts. And the joke is alive with an Irishman, an Englishman, and a Scotsman. We have Phil Mount Stevens, the British Bulldog. We got Tony Brereton, the Scottish Celt. And you got me, the Irish Leprechaun, here to hopefully boost some morale, maybe dash some hopes, and a little bit of everything as we get into the review of the devastating loss to the Dallas Cowboys on, what was Sunday afternoon for some and Sunday evening night for others. Without any further ado, I'll bring you back into the show, Tony Brereton. How are you, sir? How was your trip to Philly? Give us the abridged version. We got lots to get through.
Well, do you know, I would love to be able to complain about life, right? Particularly after Sunday. However, a trip to Lambeau Field and a narrow victory, terrible offensive performance, which will become a theme, I think, this evening. Mm-hmm. Of course, then a wonderful trip to Philly, met up with you and Katie, a defeat of the Detroit Lions. Then I desert your homeland. And it all goes to shit, Liam. I arrive home. Scotland qualify for the World Cup. So I think I should just be able to rewind to Wednesday of last week and be able to bask in the glory of two fantastic Eagles wins. Scotland qualify for the World Cup, and this Sunday hasn't actually happened yet, and we can course correct. But we'll get into that. I'm great. Thank you very much, sir. Great to be back.
Good to have you, sir. I wish we could all forget what happened on Sunday. Phil, week off last week. Well, I say a week off, a week away working, but a week off the podcast. How are you, sir?
Yeah, it's halfway through a busy 2-week period. Not on the scale of you two for sure, but for me, it's definitely out of the ordinary. Especially when you've got to take into account 2 young kids and childcare. That's the hardest bit. So it's been a tiring week away. Work last week, back on Friday, then off up to Cardiff on Sunday, which was a fantastic event, by the way.
Look great.
Absolutely amazing. And then I'm going to catch a flight on Thursday and go and bunk up with Tony for a couple of nights. So Looking forward to that. But I'm kind of looking forward to this 2-week period to be over and get on with Christmas, because I've got that looming in the background with, as I said, the kids. Christmas has taken on a whole new beast. So, I've got that looming over, so I just kind of want to get on with that now.
You certainly used up some of those brownie points at home with back-to-back trips to Wales and Scotland to watch.
Yeah, not having a trip to Philly this year has probably helped, because I don't think I have as much. But yeah, it's good.
That was your bargaining tactic. I like it. I like the way your mind works. All right. Well, look, we can't get away from it, I'm afraid, folks. We got to talk about it. Looking at the notes and. I mean, the name of the podcast, which I think is a bit, maybe not unfair, but maybe not the name we should put out, is Fire Patullo. And then the subheading is "What the hell was that?" which made me giggle as soon as I opened the notes earlier on, Phil. But, we were 21-0 up against the Dallas Cowboys. Let me take it back. Let me take a step back. We're going to do a review of the Cowboys game. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the damn right sexy. We're going to finish off with a bit of an update on injuries. Loch Lomond played a week. And we'll look ahead, if we can, to this Friday's game against the Bears. So without any further ado, let's get into the game. Before we get into the good, the bad, and the damn right sexy, can I have 60 to 90 seconds from each of you giving your feeling after the game and your feeling of where the Eagles are right now? Tony, Mr. Brereton, I'll come to you first, sir.
That feels like a hospital pass, Liam. Not so much my feelings, but more the 60 to 90 seconds. Well, where do I begin? It's one of the most bizarre Eagles games that I think we've witnessed, certainly in the last few years, where I think 2 minutes before half time. Well, maybe not 2 minutes before half time because I think my nerves were jangling by then. 5 minutes into the second quarter, my wife Yvonne, she came downstairs and she said, "How are things going?" I said, "Yeah, it's going to be a walk in the park." And I'd said to her that I was quite nervous about the game beforehand. She was like, "Alice, come on." I said to her, "We're 21-0 up, cantering. Cowboys can't move the ball. Defence is superb, and actually, for the first time in many, many weeks, we're playing some complementary football." And at that point, I couldn't see anything but a blowout. To the point that I think I became a bit complacent in my watching of the game and my attention of the game as well. Probably very different for you, Phil, and the crowd of people that you were with, and Liam, no doubt you'd have been surrounded by friends and family watching the game. But alone on the couch, there's that element of complacency, and you allow your head to go to, right, I'm at work tomorrow, what's happening, etc., etc. I think though that touchdown from the Cowboys with a couple of minutes left, and the way that touchdown came about, got the nerves jangling, and it wasn't a comfortable half time, I have to say. And my daughter came downstairs at that point and said, "How's it going?" Actually, I'm a bit worried about it. I could see this game changing. However, I don't think in that second half we can put our finger on one thing. There's no silver bullet to what happened on Sunday. Fire Patullo, the headline of the podcast. I have to say I had a giggle at that as well, Phil. If you'd have said fire Sirianni, I might have joined with you. I'm only joking, Liam. I'm just trying to wind up. I think Sirianni didn't cover himself in glory. I don't think Patullo covered himself in glory. I don't think Jalen covered himself in glory. I think there are disciplinary issues in our team. I think we were sideswiped by injuries that occurred on the field that are significant. I think missing Lane is a huge factor. There's not one thing. And I kind of came out of the game a bit bereft of what do we do? And actually even more concerned now because we've got an 8-3 Bears coming in on Friday. That I think ordinarily I'd have been feeling equally as complacent and ambivalent about. However, we have no one apart from Sydney Brown at safety, and I don't know what the hell we're going to do there. And all of a sudden I become extremely worried about Sunday, and then does the season spiral. But apart from that, I'm feeling really good about it and really confident, really confident about the future.
Yeah, is Reed Blankenship definitely out? I'm not sure.
Not definitely out. However, the worry is with Marcus Epps on IR, and Makuba's definitely out, obviously with his fairly serious injury. Which I need to go back and watch the tape on that because I'm convinced that it was either Sydney Brown or Michael Carter or something that clattered into him, and I think one of the two of them is at fault for
Michael Carter.
Was it Carter that was at fault for the Pickens catch? Yeah. So it'll be interesting actually to go back and have a look at the tape. I've not had a chance to do it.
No, me. Yeah, it will be interesting, and we'll certainly get to the Bears. But yeah, I'll hold judgment. I'll pass it over to Phil.
Does that mean I only get like 10 seconds now because Tony took most of it?
No,
I'm joking. There's not really much else to cover in any amount of depth. It's one of those games. We've had a few of them this season. It's they just seems to hit a wall, and then they just can't adjust. Whether that's defensively or offensively, there's no ability to adapt. So you just don't get that. You get that feeling that as soon as teams figure us out, it's just whether we've scored enough points up until that point to see out the game, which is a horrible way to enjoy a game. Just to watch the team bleed out and just hope that they can stave it off enough to get through. And we've done that way too many times this season to be comfortable with. And then we'll get into the details of it. But it doesn't make good reading. the amount of stats and drives and that were successful and unsuccessful, the percentage of passing plays towards the end of the game, it just all contributes to this idea that they just don't know what to do. When they get figured out, they just don't know what to do. And some people saying it's a trap game, and I think we all felt like that. So maybe we kind of just got fooled by this fast start. But then as soon as Dallas wanted it more at the end, they saw that we were there to be got at, and we just didn't have an answer towards the end.
Yeah, all fair comments. I'm going to do my best, Eagles fans, on this podcast to try and inspire some hope and positivity. But before I do that, or before I, do anything else, there's a couple of things which, I kind of need to just get off my chest. And it's around accountability. And it's the accountability of the coaches, and it's the accountability of the players. Any of you guys got a chance to listen to Jordan Mailata on 94.1. Yesterday, I managed to listen. I caught a bit of it live. I was in the car. Look at me with my new driving license.
Well, congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you, buddy. I was in the car and I was listening to him talking. Genuinely, it feels like the players, Mailata, feels like the players aren't getting anywhere near enough stick for the lack of discipline, for the lack of execution. And that's fair. Like it is easy sometimes to blame coaching, blame offensive coaching, the head coach, etc. But when you've got players with that talent, you expect them to do better. Now, are there injuries that are affecting people on the O-line? Yes. Could that be contributing to some of those penalties because they're not quite at full strength and then they have to grab hold because they're not used to being, manhandled? Sure. Were some of the calls on Sunday dodgy? Yes. We had one ourselves, but in the main, it was not a balanced reffing performance. In my eyes, there were a couple of absolutely horrendous calls which were called against us, which shouldn't have. But I'm going to come back to the accountability point, Phil, and I'm going to come back to what you said a second ago, which was the ability not knowing what to do when they figure you out. And that is my biggest concern with the Eagles right now. My biggest concern is there doesn't seem to be a plan B, and it's certainly not a plan C, because sometimes you need to get to plan D and E, right? It doesn't feel like Patullo and/or Jalen combined, because it's the offensive play caller and the quarterback, and whether it's Sirianni's offense or not. And I'm not pointing the blame at one of them specifically. I'm pointing the blame at all three of them: Sirianni, Patullo. And I have to put some blame on Hurts because while his stats were good, I never normally go by the eye test. The eye test wasn't great. And I'm not worried about that long term, to be clear. Hurts has shown me enough. We were talking about it earlier in the season, and then Hurts had two incredible games where he put the team on his back. Hurts has the ability. He just had an off game. But my concern is the consistency at which this seems to be happening this year. You said, Tony, earlier on in the podcast, and we haven't seen a collapse like this in the last few years. Let me remind you of the Broncos game we had earlier this year. We were 17-3 up until the fourth quarter and conceded 18 unanswered points. That's not too dissimilar to what we saw against Dallas. And that's a worrying trend. That's not a trend of champions. It's the opposite of a trend of champions. It's conservative play calling. And I get the conservative play calling. Like, I understand that, and I don't hate it as much as most people do. I don't care how we win. But if it continues to happen and it continues to become a theme where we score early and then we play conservatively, and then the momentum shifts in the game because we're playing conservatively, and then we're on the back foot, and then the pressure has flipped onto us, and that's where the mistakes come in. If that continues to be a theme like it was for the Broncos game and like it was for Dallas, then I'm really worried. I'm probably one performance like this away from calling it this year. That probably surprises you guys to hear that, but I don't think the performance and the culture and what we're seeing and the way they're reacting to adversity is the same as the Eagles last year. Even when the Eagles were playing last year, they were grinding out results, and then they played well. They didn't really give up huge losses apart from the Tampa Bay game, and that was dead from the start, really. This culture of losing from winning positions and being conservative is not the right tonic for a Super Bowl winning team. And that accountability needs to change. And Sirianni needs to be less stubborn, and Patullo needs to be less confident and cocky about it. And they need to get together to figure it out like they did after Tampa last year. Because if we get another performance like this, I don't see us making a deep playoff run anymore, even with the way the fixtures stand. Do I think they will turn it around? Yes, I do. I think there's too much talent on this team for them not to be able to figure it out. But I am worried that it won't. There's a difference between thinking and knowing. I'll get off my soapbox. That's kind of where I stand. Tony?
I'll just come in there, Liam, and firstly ask the question, at what point are you going to bring some positivity to the podcast?
I got some blocker.
I think we should just take a few minutes, just a deeper dive on the O-line.
Yeah.
Because in watching the game on Sunday night, and just with what you're saying, your focus there was more on the O-line, I think, Liam, than anything else. And I take your point about the Broncos' loss. I don't think the Broncos. I don't think.
Calling, Tony. I think a combination of the performance of the O-line.
They're all intertwined.
They are,
as far as I'm concerned. One thing I did notice. So just running through the O-line, right? Fred Johnson. Rotational piece, covering for Lane. You can't cover for Lane. I think I'd be inclined to cut the guy a bit of slack. That whole right-hand side of the O-line is evidently, weaker than it was last year, which inevitably allows defenses or defensive coordinators to focus on attacking the right-hand side or their right-hand side, our left-hand side in terms of Mailata and Dickerson. Really interestingly, and again, I've not watched the tape. I need to go back and watch it. It looked to me as if Saquon, Calcaterra, Goddard were incredibly focused in supporting Mailata and Dickerson on Sunday night. And I would be really interested to go and do a count on an all 22 of how many times a tight end or a running back were supporting on that side of Jalen, which kind of tells you that Patullo or Sirianni or Stout, a combination of all of the above, are worried about that left-hand side. And possibly it's because they think that there's an issue with Mailata, that Dickerson's injured, that there's gaps appearing there. I don't know, but I think that's one for memory banks to go and have a look at how many times Saquon or Goddard were deployed to chip if someone got past Mailata or Dickerson. Are they that badly injured? I mean, our run game is dead, right? We'll come on to that as far as the bad is concerned. Our run game is non-existent this year. Now, Stout, as far as I'm aware, is the run game play designer. I know that Jamal is the running back coach, obviously. But who's designing the run plays? And if it's Stout, is Stout intentionally doing something in there because of injuries on that O-line? I don't know. And is that affecting Patullo's play calling as well? And I cannot understand why our offense is struggling the way that it is. To your point, Liam, in saying when we have so much talent on that side of the ball, Jalen's holding on to the ball for a long time. He's getting protection most of the time. Why is the run game not working? There is something fundamentally amiss. And to your point, I think Stout, Sirianni, Jamal, Patullo all need to get their heads together to say, what the hell are we doing here? Because I'm with you, and it's not just being on the Cowboys game. I could not see a deep run into the playoffs playing the way that we are playing on offense. And I think there was some chat in the WhatsApp group last week around the only way that we're going to win games is if Fangio schemes it up, because it's not going to come from anybody else. And I'm off my soapbox now.
No, it's a good point. I mean, we kind of come back to a conversation that me and you have a lot, Tony, and that is, do offenses win championships or defensive win championships? I mean, the answer, if you're not an idiot, is both, right?
It's got to be a complement of both, right?
Yeah, it is both. Now, but what you need for a championship winning team is, and I think I mentioned this last week on the podcast, when the offense isn't clicking, you need the defense to step up. When the defense is clicking, you need the offensive to step up. And I think right now they're not firing on both cylinders at the same time, which is causing some of these performances. When you look at the Broncos, when you look at the Cowboys game, specifically those two as being the poorest performances I think we've seen in an Eagles team since the Buccaneers game last year. And that needs to change. I mean, we were puffing our chests out after the Lions game and after the Giants rematch about how fantastic our defensive line pressure was. Defensive line didn't get anywhere near Dak Prescott. And the Dallas Cowboys have a decent O-line, but it's not the best in the league. And Tyler Gowton was out for periods of that game as well. You know, they were missing some players on their O-line for periods of the game. So that's a concern for me. And I think the and this is where it's going to turn into some positivity, I promise. I think the overarching reason for me still believing in this team is everything that could possibly have gone wrong against the Cowboys went wrong. Like everything. There wasn't a single thing that went right. It all went wrong, from the defensive line not getting pressure, from Jalen under or overthrowing a few balls, from the offensive line being like paper mache, like the running game not being where it needs to be, like some dropped catches, like fielding a punt at the 2-yard line, you moron. And then not only doing that, but then fumbling the ball, missing field goals. Unbelievable play by Dak and Pickens at moments. Everything that could possibly have happened for the Cowboys to win that game happened. And that won't happen every week. That won't happen every week. The offense is too talented. The defense is too talented. If they're having injuries, hopefully they'll feel better and they'll get better. We are still 8-3. We do still have Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown had a great game, right? I'm surprised he wasn't smiling after the loss yesterday on social media with the way he acts. But he had a great game. Him and Jalen connected. And actually, I don't know if you guys saw, but when Jalen ran in for one of his scores, A.J. Brown came up and gave him a high five. I don't think I've seen that this season so far. I don't know if you guys caught that on the camera. Now, I will say when A.J. Brown scored touchdowns, I didn't see Jalen anywhere. But A.J. Brown came up and gave Jalen a high five. There is something going on in the dressing room right now that none of us know, right? There is something going on in terms of injuries, in terms of Hurts and Patullo and the play calling. The offensive line are not performing to where they need to be. Jalen's not performing where they need to be. Saquon's not performing where they need to be. And sometimes the defense isn't even, not all the time. They're the best of the three, right? Something is going on right now that we don't know about. That is why Sirianni is as stubborn as he is, right? If there was nothing going on that Sirianni could not point to the reason for these collapses and the reason for these moments happening. And look, you could point to the design routes, etc. But the Eagles have never had fancy design routes. Sirianni's system is keep it simple, stupid, throw it to your best guys, get the first down, win the game, don't turn the ball over. You can have a good argument all day if that's a bad philosophy or a good philosophy, but it's a winning philosophy and it's done as well. So all to say, which is my new favorite phrase, the reason to be positive as Eagles fans right now is that we have the talent. Everything that could have went wrong. If there's clearly something going on in the locker room, and I cannot believe Sirianni would not make the move he needs to if he didn't think it was going to be okay in the long term. And throw into that for a second, Dallas played really fucking good in the second half. Like, Dak Prescott was on fire. Pickens was on fire. Their defensive line got pressure. Their O-line stood up to our D-line. And it was in their backyard, and we just hung the Super Bowl flag in front of them about 8 or 9 weeks ago. They were going to be up for this game, and they were. For me, it was just one of those days where it can all go wrong. As I said earlier, if this becomes a pattern, I'll start to get concerned. But as of right now, we're 8-3. We got one of the most talented teams in the NFL. We have a coach who's been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and a quarterback who should have been MVP in both of the Super Bowls. in 3 years. So I'm not pulling the whole house down yet. Phil?
Yeah, you're both making great points. I think we do all deep down know that the name of the podcast is at the moment for Patullo. It's very much tongue in cheek. It's just kind of the theme that's around the WhatsApp groups. It's just the running. It's the obvious lightning rod to go to, but and you're saying that Sirianni deserves as much slack, or one of you was. It's like, yeah, but it's like it's the same situation as when he had Ben Johnson and
Brian Johnson, yeah.
Brian Johnson. Yeah,
Wish we had Ben Johnson. That'd be fucking fantastic.
It's the same situation where he's the offensive coordinator is an extension of Sirianni, and it's just not worked before. It's annoying that they've got into the situation again, and they haven't realised that he's great at managing everything but the play calling. Like, leave the play calling to the experts. Patullo didn't. No one's gut instinct felt right at the start, and there are lots of factors, and I get that, and I'm going to give him a little bit of more slack just because of what you guys have said. It's fair enough that they're dealing with a lot, but it's still painfully clear to see during the games that there is a deficiency in that area, and something needs to be done about it. Whether they need to change the play caller or whether they need to change things around the play caller. Is it discipline? Yeah, maybe Marlatt is right, and the players need to take more ownership. But I kind of get the feeling if I was playing for the Eagles right now and I was in their shoes, I'd be a little bit bottom lip on the floor, like pissed off, play calling shite, the team's playing shite. It's hard to sort of
players aren't saying
that's where you get leaders from.
No, I get it. Players aren't saying that though, and it does not sound disingenuous when you would listen to Marlatt. Go listen to the Marlatt. It does not sound disingenuous or platitudes or just been told what to say. You could tell he's visibly frustrated that him and the team are not getting enough slack for how they're performing, and it's fair. Like players don't get enough slack sometimes for how they're performing. You said about the rushing earlier on. Saquon is not having a good year. It's not just the O-line. Saquon is missing holes that he was in last year. Does he still have the same step, the same juice? Yes, he does. But for whatever reason, his vision is not what it was last year. Will he get back to it? Absolutely. But he's in a funk right now, Saquon.
I think Tank Bigsby has had more success on the big plays, the big explosive plays, in terms of having those moments that really affects a game, changes the game. Saquon, whether teams are just better defending better or Saquon's not having a good year, I think both are definitely true. But maybe it's worth. Maybe we should be starting to look at getting Tank Bigsby more involved and trying to more of these outside cuts and sharp changes of directions, just to throw that in. It feels like they're not utilizing that. Like, if the run game can work, it's just not working.
There's no creativity there either.
And there's no creativity in the sense that they are just trying to force a bad hand in that regard. They're not, whether they don't want to admit that Saquon's not going to be as effective, and they're trying to make that happen. But it's just like switch to Tank for a little bit. Like, give him more snaps. Take a step back. Whilst the offensive line and the defense and the play calling are struggling with getting the run game going, just try a little bit something of that in the games. Maybe that'll spark it alive, and then, because once the run game gets more successful, that allows the passing game to be more successful. So it feels like they're kind of just retreating back into we don't want to turn the ball over, so we're going to just do safe passes and runs through the middle where Saquon hopefully won't fumble. It's an uncharacteristic fumble, but stats will tell you that it's bound to happen at some point.
I forgot about the Saquon fumble as well.
And it's just that was because of a hurt sack. So not wanting to throw the ball into tight windows and not wanting to take those chances is another factor. And that's not me saying Hurts is to blame. It's just clearly there's just a culmination of everything is meaning that the Eagles' offense, as a result of all the things that we're talking about, is just placid. It's lacking creativity, adaptability, taking risks, and that is just meaning that it's fine if you get to 21-0, but you have to be hitting, and you have to be hitting on a few more things in the second half. You have to get 3 more points. The Jake Elliott field goal, I'm not putting blame on him, but if he gets that, it's a different game. You know, if we,
I also would have went for it on that play, just to be clear. I wouldn't.
I remember I was in when I was
4th and 3, I
to
think it
watch
was.
Brighton Cardiff. I remember there was this discussion at the time, and I was like, I can see why they're doing it. They want to get the points, and also it's a dome, so you're going to back Jake Elliott all day long there. It's just that there's so many different things, and I think it's always cathartic. It's always cathartic us coming on here because we always feel better after it, and we'll come into Friday full of positivity again. Especially since I'm going to be in Glasgow with two of the best Scotsmen I know, and more, but two I know really well. And I'm going to be back to the same positivity, and it's going to be great again until it happens again. My biggest gut wrenching thing that just bothers me so much is that it's going to happen again, and I feel like it's going to happen again. Like we're going to get 21-0 up, and we're all just going to be sat there going, can they hold on to it? And that shouldn't be what you're thinking.
Eagles are only going to lose one more game this year, and that if it happens, it's going to be against the Bills. My worry is how they take it into the playoffs, and can they do what they did last year? And I'll repeat this again. I think I said this in the last podcast. People forget that the Eagles didn't click until like 2 games before the playoffs last year. The Eagles did not click at all until 2 games before the playoffs. Even after Tampa, we won games, and we didn't look amazing. Saquon Barkley wasn't the lead rushing leader until like week 12 or something like that, and then he had like a 250-yard game, and then he blew up between now and the end of the season. So there is hope that it's possible for this to be turned around. We should probably get to the good, the bad, and the damn right sexy. But I think it was important just to air it out and just talk about how we're feeling on this podcast, and rather than going down our usual kind of running order. So I'm going to punt this over to you, Tony, and I'm punting you, Mr. Is it Arthur James Brown? Mr. A.J. Brown. Talk to me about the game he had. Talk to me about his connection with Hurts. Just give me your general kind of litmus test. Well, what's your feeling about that situation right now?
I think the takeaway from the game, Liam, is he, all of a sudden has catapulted into a multiple catch plus 100-yard touchdown scoring game. And I'm trying to be positive here. In fact, no,
that's the name of the podcast. Fact, it's not Fire Patullo. It's British and Irish. It's sort of like trying to be positive.
When you take the first 2 drives of the game, there was a glimpse of the connection that AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts have had. It didn't feel forced. It felt that the routes were good. It felt that AJ was making effort. He was getting open. There was some throws into tight windows. There was some good catches. It just felt as if the connection was there. And I think that's the first time in a number of games that it's felt as if actually they're good. They're fine. This is all kind of media speculation and hype and so on and so forth. And actually, maybe that is one of the positive takeaways from the game, because I don't think there was anything. I think he had one or 2 catches in the second half. There certainly weren't the explosive plays that maybe Devonta had in the second half. But I don't think the hubris that we have experienced in previous weeks can be applied to this game. I think we need to cast our gaze elsewhere as far as what's gone wrong. So it's absolutely right that it's in the good column. That AJ's back, plus 100 game, plus 100-yard game, touchdown, multiple catches. It feels as if that connection is there. Was it scheme? Don't know. But we're into this. It could be this and it could be that. So it could be the O-line injured. It could be the play calling. It could be that Jalen's not right. It could be. But one thing it wasn't from this game was a connection between AJ and Jalen.
Yeah. Just to answer one of your questions, I did a bit of a Google AI while you were chatting there. He had 8 catches in the game. 5 of them were in the first quarter. He didn't then have another catch until the fourth quarter. So he wasn't. I don't know whether he was targeted in the second or the third. I don't have it in front of me, but he did not catch a ball in the second or the third quarter, which was pretty much the time at which Dallas were coming back and getting back into the game. So certainly something to keep an eye on. Look, we're not going to spend too long on AJ Brown. We've spent a lot of time on him in every podcast this year, but he's certainly in the good 110 yards, 8 catches, and a tutty. Braden Mann, he's got a beast of a leg, and sometimes too big a leg. But I think we've got that spot solidified for a long time to come. I want to throw it over to you, Phil, and talk about Jalen Hurts, because while he didn't have his best game, it wasn't his worst. And I do think perhaps some of the criticism of Jalen's performance in this game is a bit over the top. I see Elliot Shore-Parks gave him a D. I thought that was incredibly harsh. When someone has 0 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, 70% completion, 300 yards on the ground, and another 300 yards in the air and 40 odd on the ground. Like, no matter how bad the eye test is, a D with those stats feels a bit ridiculous. Is the Jalen abuse a bit much this week?
Yeah, I think it is. I think if I haven't personally, and I've not been everywhere, admittedly, seen much direct criticism of Jalen other than what we know is that he is playing safe, doesn't seem to be wanting to throw into tight windows, which aren't necessarily criticisms in themselves. It's just more frustrating when you want a bit more risky, but we all want a bit more risky until he throws 3 interceptions in the game. So the fact that he didn't throw any interceptions through for nearly 300 yards, he definitely threw a lot more in this game, and he seemed to be playing a fine game. I think I'll just refer back to what I mentioned before, which is it just feels very much everything around it, like the offensive line isn't as good. So that's on his mind. The run game isn't supporting his passing game as well as it should. And some of the receivers are dropping passes, and there's lots of other factors. I just don't think there's really anything to specifically lay at Jalen. Maybe if he was to change and be a bit more riskier, things might improve, but then we're probably going to have a few more interceptions, like I just said, and end up losing a game. And turnovers are the problem. And the reason we've been winning games despite having these moments throughout the season is because we've been winning the turnover battle. In this game, I'm not sure if we won or lost it, but we had 2, which is unusual. Though none of them were on Jalen, so you can't really.
I agree.
There's any real issue to sort of throw at his door. He spread the ball around as well. He got it to Smithy for a decent chunk outside of AJ Brown, and Saquon Barkley for 50 yards. And Cooper got a couple of catches. So I don't think that's why the passing game is in the good column. I think we've looked at Jalen because I feel like it's not Jalen, it's the passing game.
Also the receivers,
yeah.
I think that's fair. Like, I mean, I would go as far to say, and you all know how I feel about Jalen, that Jalen is the reason Eagles have won games this year, as well as the defense. But he's not the reason why they've lost. Personally, I think that's on the coaching, and I am now including Sirianni in that alongside Patullo. I don't think. Look, even if the Eagles collapse the rest of the year, I would still keep Sirianni for next season. But I would bring in another experienced offensive coordinator like we did with Kellen Moore.
That feels like what they have to do. It
would be too harsh to fire a coach who's been to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years, all 4 playoffs, but has, rightly so, maybe not learned his lesson by hiring internally and not getting rid of sooner or later. But I still think he's part of the recipe for the culture within this organization and the team and where they've been. I would not get rid of Sirianni if they collapse the rest of the year. If it happened again next, I would. But, I could see a scenario where the Eagles collapse this year and win the Super Bowl again next year with Sirianni at the helm. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I suppose while I'm putting Sirianni in the fire a little bit here, I'm dipping his toe in. I'm not throwing the whole body in because he's just got way too much rope for me. Based on what's happened, what he's done, the excitement and joy he has presided over in my life. And if most Eagles fans, over than the win in 2017, life ain't bad as an Eagles fan. Even with what's going on right now, we're still 8-3, guys.
I just hope that this will, if we do that, we just change offensive coordinator and it works again, that Sirianni will finally accept that what his role is, what his place is. He doesn't have the ability to select his own offensive coordinator from within. That's got to be taken away from him now. It doesn't matter if the next guy who comes in does as well as Kellen Moore did. But he just can't be like, well, I want to try one of my own guys. It's like, you've had 2 attempts at that. It's been disastrous, and it both times so far this season, including 2 years ago. So yeah, I think I've got no problems with Sirianni when things are right, but when things are wrong, it's hard not to drag him in a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move over to the bad. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave you here in 1 second because I've had 3 messages in the last 10 minutes to jump on a call. But we've only got about 20 minutes left of the podcast anyway. So
Shocker, we're on to the bad now, and Liam's
No, I'm not. I'm going to make a statement for you. But a lot of the bad we've already discussed. We've discussed the run game. We've discussed Patullo. Flags we probably haven't talked about enough. I'll leave you guys to chat about that. Xavier Gibson, I'll leave you to chat about that. But just on the Patullo point, there's some really great notes here, Phil. Enough said, 10 points against the Packers, 16 points against the Lions, and no points over the final 41 and a half minutes against the Cowboys, which is God hot. That is hard to read. First 3 drives netted 21 points, 192 yards, and 12 first downs. Then it all disappeared. The Eagles' final 8 possessions netted 107 yards, 7 first downs, and exactly 0 points. It just has to change. It can't. Players need to execute better, but it has to change. They need to change it up. I want to see like a wheel chip, right? I want to see Saquon lining up on the right hand side as a wide receiver. I want to see him coming across pre-snap. I want to see Jalen throwing him the ball out to the left and then taking it around the side. I want to see motions and concepts that allow Barkley, to get on the outside rather than up the middle. I want to see more Hurts design runs, although we did see a few and they were good when he did, and he really did put the team in his back early in the game. And I want to see better wide receiving concepts. And I'm not the only one. I don't think there's a single Eagles fan who will say that. I'm probably one of the last to say it because I don't care if we win. I don't care if it's simple design plays as long as we win and protect the ball. But we're no longer just winning by doing this. We are now losing games. And that has to stop if we're going to win the Super Bowl. What do they say in WIP? I'll stop it there, John, pass it over and let you guys talk about it.
Cool.
Leave you guys to it. Enjoy
the rest of your day, man.
Good man.
Go Birds!
Go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Oh, I've got to stop the pod. No, sorry, that's later.
Right, Phil. The head teacher's away. Let's fucking turn it. Let's just tear it down. Let's burn it all up and really talk about.
Just restart the pod.
Yeah. Over to you, mate.
Yeah. So, he's not really left us with much of the good stuff to talk about. So, but we'll quickly touch on the Patullo stuff that he said, because that's the big bit. We have touched on it already, but the points that Liam just read out were really damning when I read them and stole them for my own notes in the short time I had to prepare them. But the final 8 possessions, like the Cowboys had 12 possessions in the game, which was too many, and the final 8 possessions for us just netted nothing. And it's just like it's like the first touchdown before half really changed everything mentally for everyone. If we'd gone in 21-0, it probably would have still happened or still gone the same way. However, 21-7 obviously does not look as good as 21-0, but I think mentally for both teams going in at half would have allowed us, maybe sustained us for a little bit longer. We could have got into the third quarter, well into the third quarter, before we started sort of trying to play it too safe. But the minute that first touchdown goes in for me, Tony, is the minute it's like, oh no, it's happening again, starts to grow. It's not there right away, but if it's happening for us, it feels like Patullo is probably thinking the same thing, and it almost like everything tightens up, and it's like, oh no, I'm just going to play safe, and I'm just going to cut off Jalen's ability to take any risk or do anything remotely risky, and then I'm just going to hope, to bury my head, hope for the best, and hope that we get out of this game and I survive another week. And it didn't happen this time. I mean, I know it's not happened against the Broncos, but we've had other games where we've got out of it and he's survived another week, and we've given him another week to do it. And it's like, you can't play like that as the defending Super Bowl champions, no matter who you're playing against, rivals, divisional rivals, conference rivals, Super Bowl contenders. You have to be able to see out games, and I think that's what's missing for me, is that killer instinct, that confidence, and that strength to just steady the course. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing safe, but I have absolute problems with playing scared.
I can only build on those points, Phil. You go back to the Rams game, and we were so far behind at halftime, and all of a sudden we came out and Jalen played loose. You think of the connection he had with AJ Brown that day, and we turned it around. And to an extent, we'll go back to the first question that Liam asked both of us at the start of the pod. How did you feel after that game? I kind of felt how the Rams fans must have felt after the Eagles game at the Link and losing in the final kick of the ball. Now, just moving on, I wonder, and this it's another frustrating could be, you go in at halftime, and if Phil, you're a great guy for making analogies, right? And let's put it into our footballing analogy. You're 3-0 up, you're approaching halftime, you're under a bit of pressure, you get in at halftime 3-1. And that's when you make your adjustments, okay? But the mentality is about protecting a lead. And there's the old adage in football, isn't there? At 2-0, which effectively 3 touchdowns to 1 touchdown is, if you're at 2-0, the next goal's the winner. And I just wonder if the conversation that took place in the dressing room was about protecting the win or protecting the lead rather than growing the lead. And that completely changes a mindset. And to your point, everything clenches up, everything tightens up. Patullo starts to play conservative. Vic starts to play soft. And I think that's what we saw. Now, the injuries didn't help. The flags didn't help. Loads of things didn't help. And Liam's made that point that it really was a concoction of, mystery and disaster that took us to the point where Aubrey kicked that winning field goal. But in between all of that time, that softness, that willingness to stand off, that willingness to play conservative. And maybe we just need to get a bit looser. Maybe we do need to accept that, to allow Jalen to play the best ball that Jalen plays, we've got to let him go a bit, and we've got to take a risk on him. Because you look at some of the play calls, you look at some of the designs, you look at some of the concepts that are being run, it's to help Jalen be conservative. Now, I don't know if that's a mentality thing with Jalen. I don't know if it's a conservative thing with Sirianni or Patullo or the collection of the coaching staff. But maybe we just need to, play a bit looser, play with a bit more confidence, and let him go.
I don't even. The thing for me as well is I don't even think that there were definitely enough occasions in the second half, or the last 3 quarters, if you want to be like that, where it wouldn't have taken super loose. It wouldn't have been like, we're going to have to start taking huge risks. There was plenty of opportunities where just like slightly poking your head out of your comfort zone would have been enough to maybe get a field goal or get a touchdown. So like Jalen taking shots down the field didn't seem to happen again. Mm-hmm. That, apart from the Devontae Smith, but even that was massively underthrown. Mm-hmm. The incredible catch from Smith to adjust and still come down with the ball. It was unbelievable, but it kind of made it more obvious than has been previously that Jalen's long throws haven't been the dagger. They just haven't been. Like, that was not the opposite of the dagger, but that was the anti-dagger, because it was just throw it and fuck it. Hopefully Smith will come down with it. Like, if that's the looseness you're playing, then that's not a good way to play either. I don't know what's happening with it, but it's
Phil, sorry, mate. Other play calls, you come out with the 2-minute warning and you're 3rd and 2 on the Eagles' 40-yard line. When have we ever thrown a pass or called a passing play on 3rd and 2 in kind of middle of the field territory. Now, you pinpoint specific plays that could have cost you. 3rd and 2, you run the ball. That's the DNA of the Eagles. You run the ball, you get a yard, you push, you get your first down, and you keep going. And actually, that 3rd and 2, and what was it, just out the 2-minute warning? I think it was. I think it was just out the 2-minute warning. That's when he took the 10, 15-yard sack and we had to punt it, and the rest is history. But when have you ever known such a weird play call? And is it a lack of trust in the O-line? Is it a lack of trust in the run game? Is it? Who knows? It's another could be.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get some answers on Friday versus the Bears. I am looking forward to the game still. I know that they've been good, but I'll touch on a few bits where I think that actually it's I'm still fairly confident of going into it. We won't cover the other bits that Liam discussed in too much detail. We had 14 penalties. It was for a huge amount. It was uncharacteristic, but there was a lot of bad calls from the officiating crew as well. But a lot of ill discipline. But we've got inexperience or lesser experience than we are used to in certain positions. So, Fred Johnson and other players like that have come in that may be causing the odd penalty. It's like you have to just accept that we're not going to be perfect in that area. So there's not really too much to discuss on that. And Xavier Gibson, I put on there as well because it was a pretty epic. Like we've already touched on the fumble, but I don't know why he's suddenly returning punts. We've got some pretty good guys in there that have done better jobs. You've got where's Crash Test Covey when you need him.
Absolutely, bring him back.
Bring him back. Yeah, and I feel like we'd rather it'd be interesting to see if Gibson's released because I just don't think he's had a couple of them, and we can say in the last game I think it was him that got sacked. What most people thought was a safety, but now we've seen a couple of the instances where if, the ball's touched by the receiving team or the kicking team, then it can't be a safety. But still, a high IQ or not, he seems to be taking more risks. And in a team that seems to be very centered around not taking risks, it doesn't seem to really fit the bill. So we'll see what happens with Xavier Gibson, but we won't. Cass, I won't ask for your thoughts on that because I think we've covered most of that. But what we will do is discuss who we think is the lock lineman, what was the lock lineman player of the week. Because I've found some examples. I think we can end all that negativity with some positivity, Tony. So I'll list them out for you. I'll let you make the decision. I'll let you know if I agree with you or not. But not so much a play, but plays, a period, lock lineman period of the week. Weird. I think the punts from Braden Mann, he had 3 consecutive punts which landed them within the 4, 8 and 11 yard line for the Cowboys. So gave terrible starting field position for the Cowboys, excellent position for the punt to land. And I feel like without that could have been worse as well. It's a big factor in the game where, if it shanks a punt or and it goes into the 35, then we could have been in a worse position. Second option, Tony, is the read interception in the end zone because that was quite key. Obviously stopping points, but it was nice to intercept Dak in the end zone, especially. And as I mentioned before, that Smith catch, I think, for an offensive candidate for it, the adjustment and the moment of the game. He's always, we've said it before. Smithy always comes up in pretty much every game this season. And with a crucial catch, which unfortunately didn't help us win the game, but definitely gives you a bit of a boost offensively when you're really struggling. So, talk me through them if you want to, or you can just come out right and say which one you think. So, take it away, Tony.
So I'm gonna dismiss Braden Mann, right? And I'm going to dismiss him for 2 reasons. One, he's doing his job, and he's doing his job extremely well. You summed it up beautifully earlier in the pod, Phil, when you said you think we've got that position sewn up for the next couple of years. And if he continues with that leg and the accuracy that he's shown, then good on him. Pay him and keep the guy. The other two factor, and they factor because of the principle of what gets you off the couch and what gets you kind of screaming at the telly and jumping for joy. And I think you can toss a coin on which one of the other two that you would give the local Lomond play of the week, and you would toss the coin only because nothing really came from either of the two of them. The sad reality is the interception from Reed, great play, undercut Lamb, took the ball away. We couldn't make anything of it. And the same for the Devonta play. We marched down the field, incredible catch, and you're absolutely right to highlight the catch and not the throw. He was absolutely superb in that moment, but again, nothing came of it. So it really goes down to which one of the two of them just got you off the couch the most. And I think for me, it was Reed's.
Really?
I think
I was expecting you to go for Smith there, because I was going to say
no.
I completely agree with you.
I think it was Reed's, and it was Reed's because we were so much on the back foot at the time, and I was fully expecting them to score a touchdown in that moment, and I had that sinking feeling, and that gave me hope again. That we could take something from the game. Sadly, it wasn't to be, but I would give it to Reed. You would give it to Devonta. So I think we should put a poll on the WhatsApp group, and we'll let the guys there decide which one of the two wins it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to give it to Reed, but yeah, I think the Smith catch, just for the adjustment, showcasing his ability as a player, and yeah, neither came to anything. But I can happily give it to Reed because, like you said, it's that moment where you're expecting points, because it seems like it's just inevitable. To have that moment felt like a real turning point, but unfortunately, couldn't really make heads or tails of either of them. So anyway, we'll give it to Reed. Let's give Reed's interception.
Reed gets his flowers. Excellent.
And with that, we'll have a quick ad break, and then we'll quickly touch the Bears game on Friday, and then we'll leave it there. See you in a moment.
Celebrate victories, rally through challenges, and bond with fellow fans as you toast with a dram of Loch Lomond single malt whisky. From tailgating gatherings to watch parties at home, Loch Lomond whisky becomes an essential companion, enhancing the moments that make football so extraordinary. It's the perfect accompaniment, from the joy of victory to the bittersweet moments of defeat. Loch Lomond offer a wide range of malts, with their flagship perfectly balanced, and signature expressions Inchmoan and Inchmuirn to suit any taste palette. Celebrate greatness on and off the field this season with a perfect balance of Loch Lomond whisky and Eagles football. From the first pour to the crowd roar. Fly Eagles fly.
There we go. So we'll move on quickly to the Bears game on Friday, and then we'll cut it there. But a couple of points to note: it's Black Friday game, so the Eagles are now going to be wearing all black, which makes sense, I suppose. Didn't really think about it too much, but feels like ages since we've been dressing all black. So for the superstitious among you, whether that makes you feel more positive or more pessimistic, who knows? But given the Eagles this season, I can see it having a significant effect either way. Bears are also 8-3, so that's another surprise that we didn't expect it when we saw the schedule come out. Was both teams being on the same record, good or bad. But when you list through, Tony, the teams that they've beaten and the teams that they've lost to, it kind of does paint a little bit more of a positive picture in terms of where we, how confident we might be going into Friday. They've beaten Dallas. We've beaten Dallas. We've also lost to them. Vegas, Washington haven't been great. The Saints, Bengals have been having a terrible season as well. Giants, as we know. They did get that win against the Vikings recently, and Pittsburgh. Nothing there really stands out to say like they've beaten anyone. They are probably one of the poorest 8-3 teams or division leaders at the moment. They are in fact leading the North, which is probably amazing for them. All credit to them. But the teams that they've lost to, the Ravens, Vikings return, and the Lions, obviously, most recently. So it's, when you look at that, Tony, do you kind of think that they should be easy to get at and the record should be dismissed, or do you take do you give a bit more weight to it and think, well, actually, they've done really well. Caleb Williams has shown some really good flashes this season, and the team that they've built seems to actually be becoming good. What are your early thoughts on the game on Friday?
The Bears are a fugazi outfit. They are frauds. And if we don't beat them on Friday, then we are in deep, deep trouble. The only way that they're going to beat us, Phil, is short dinks over the middle to attack our depleted safety position, potentially secondary as well, if we're having to move Cooper DeJean around to accommodate injuries to or concussion to Adoree Jackson, and the other issues that we've got going on in the secondary, particularly at cornerback and safety. They are not a great team, Phil. They had a lucky escape on Sunday against Pittsburgh. Ben Johnson's clearly a great offensive mind, and you see that's getting missed from the Lions and the struggles that they are having. But we have to win this game on Sunday, and it's very rare, not unknown this season, but it's very rare for Las Vegas to get it so wrong. And I have to say, I was a bit surprised to see the Eagles a 7-point favourite for Friday. So that's where Vegas are seeing it. You've listed the litany of mid teams that they've beaten this season, and you throw enough darts at a dartboard, you're going to hit the bull. So it doesn't surprise me to see one or two decent teams in there. But really, there's no one in there that you're thinking, well, that's an outstanding win. The ones that they've lost are to the teams that either we've beaten or we would expect to beat this season. So I don't have many concerns for Friday. I think it'll be a one-score game. So I think the -7 or the +7, if you're on the side of the Bears, is maybe a bit of a generous offer. If I was going to bet the spread, I would maybe take the Bears. But I think we win it in a one-score game.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think you are right. The -7 feels. I think recency bias is a little bit like, well, look at how we poorly were against Dallas, and that it's not going to be the same. The biggest concern is what the injury report is going to look like, and obviously we've only got a short week technically, and the first injury report will probably be out in the next hour or two, so we'll probably find out a bit more there. I tried to have a look at the Bears injury report to see who missed last week, and apart from TJ Edwards, there's not really any notable players that might be following on. If they picked up any more, it's not available. That information not available yet. But I think, and it's at home. It's after a defeat. I feel like the Eagles are going to come back and be a bit more determined to prove that Dallas was just one of those days. But hey, I'm going to be spending it in the company of yourself and Mick and 30 odd other Scotsmen, Northerners. I don't think I've got a few colleagues from my work coming, which is going to be interesting for them to experience different when I've had a few beers and the Eagles are doing great or terrible. So I'm really looking forward to that anyway. So I think generally that's helping me. If I was going to be sat on my couch on my own, maybe a little bit nervous, but I'm going to be having you and Mick to bring me up. So it's going to be an absolutely epic event. So quickly touch on that. We're going to be at the Arc in Glasgow on Friday for the 8 o'clock kickoff game. So if you listen to this and you haven't been aware that we're doing a watch event on Friday, do come along to the Arc in Glasgow and pay us a visit. We've got a nice booking there, and we'll have our own little Eagles room, much like we did in Cardiff. Absolutely fantastic venue, by the way, Tony 11's bar in Cardiff. It was
take a couple of minutes to talk about Cardiff, Phil, and give a shout out to the guys that were there. And from everything that was said, it was an outstanding night.
Yeah, a great turnout. 20 to 25 people turn out. There's a few people that walk-ins that sort of noticed and popped their head in, including a couple of a Ravens fan, a Niners fan, and a Buccaneers fan who joined us as well. It was just a really good night. The room they gave us, great, fantastic screen service. The I'd say it's probably one of the best services I've ever had in one of those situations where we're obviously a group of people just drinking, watching sport, but they were so attentive. They made sure we had everything we needed, switched the screens when we needed from Red Zone. It was such a credit to the place. So 100% we'll be going back next season. I suspect the more local contingent that were there than I will be maybe making a beeline for there during the playoffs, hopefully, and making it on their own accord, which it's going to be hard not to drive up and join them again. But absolutely amazing event, and credit to Mike Sue, who was on the pod a couple of weeks ago, sort of took the lead and organised the event, got everyone there, and then did a names in the hat to win a bottle of Loch Lomond whiskey and Ben Lomond gin, which didn't go according to plan, mainly because after the first touchdown scorer, nobody seemed to have anybody that came after. I drew out Schoonmaker. Mike himself had Jaden Blue, so I think we were out before it came on. But yeah, we managed to redraw for the second half, and I think someone did have George Pickens for one of them. So it was an absolutely amazing event. Food, drink, amazing, and thanks so much to everyone that came out and made it such an epic night.
Brilliant.
Yeah, right. So, like I said, we'll be in Glasgow on Friday. Looking forward to the game. Eagles are going to get back to winning ways. Hopefully, we've managed to get all the cathartic negativity out, and I think I always feel better after these podcasts, even though you don't look forward to them. You come out of it processing it a little bit better, and you've got it all out. Got it all, shake it off, and now focused on Friday and the amazing event it's going to be. So, with any last words from you, Tony, I'll take us out.
I think we're all done, Phil. Can't wait to see you on Thursday, picking you up at the airport at 6:00 Thursday night. For anyone who is at a loose end on Friday, obviously it's Black Friday. You don't want to be involved in shopping. You want to come and join us at the Arc in Glasgow. Doors open at 7:00. Final decisions can still be made. That'll probably give Mick a heart attack because I think he's already worrying about the numbers. Let's swell those numbers even more and come and join us.
Fantastic. Cool. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, hope you've agreed and disagreed in equal vigour with everything we've said tonight. And feel free to reach out to us on social media and tell us exactly what you think. But until then, we shall see you next time, and go Birds.
Go Birds.